NoBull, the title sponsor of the CrossFit Games, on the CrossFit Games podcast, on an episode sponsored by NoBull. I'm sure this will be impartial. Welcome back to the channel, and speaking of the channel, if you ever wonder why I make these videos or why you should support other independent media like Clydesdale or Savan or Chalking Fitness or Hiller or anybody else that is creating media in the CrossFit space, when you've got CrossFit putting out their own podcast or you've got the Morning Chalk Up, this is why. Right now, this is why. So there has been a lot of talk about NoBull in the last couple of days, particularly regarding the replica jerseys. So I was very interested when I saw that Todd Melanie, the Chief Marketing Officer of NoBull, was on the CrossFit Games podcast. I wondered maybe what questions they might be asked about the situation. And then the episode started like this.
It is sponsored by NoBull, the official footwear and apparel brand of CrossFit. The 2022 NoBull CrossFit Games collection is now available at NoBullProject.com. Shop the newest footwear, apparel, and accessories, and the official 2022 NoBull CrossFit Games gear. Welcome back to the CrossFit Games podcast. I'm your host, Chase Ingham, and I am with the Chief Marketing Officer of NoBull, Mr. Todd Melanie. Thank you so much for taking the time here.
So this start got me a little bit nervous. Not only are they the title sponsor of the games anyway, but then they've specifically sponsored this episode. And then we cut to Chase sitting there in his NoBull t-shirt, and I kind of wonder how much pushback we're going to get on anything that NoBull tells us. And I feel bad because I really like Chase, and I hope he doesn't get offended by this, but this is the kind of question that I didn't want to hear.
You're about 2 years into your official partnership with the CrossFit Games themselves, and as you look back on what you guys have really grown side by side with each other, how is that relationship pushing you guys? Is it the dialogue between you and HQ, at least on the game side, is like, are they pushing you guys? Are you guys pushing back? Or is this nice little push and pull the whole way, but the direction's always going forward? What's that relationship like?
So when asking about CrossFit's relationship with NoBull, it was like, oh, are you guys pushing CrossFit forward, or are CrossFit pushing you forward? Is it like pushing and pulling and bringing each other forward? So it's basically, is it positive situation A or positive scenario B? But whatever happens, it's all positive, right? So I wonder what insightful answer we will get to this question.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing is we're pointed in the exact same direction. And I think it's really important for a healthy partnership to have a healthy friction around here's what we want to do, here's what you want to do, and compromise and work through as long as everybody's on the same playing field, which we really have been from the beginning. Like, there hasn't been any negative moments, quite frankly. There's been thoughtful dialogue around how we want to approach this or how they want to approach that. But it's been awesome. We've brought things to the table like Athlete HQ and said, here's what we want to do. And they were totally supportive on board and other things. And, they've brought things to us like the replica jerseys, right? We talked about it a year ago and we all wanted to do it and we weren't able to pull it off last year. That was a NoBull thing that we weren't able to deliver on, but we knew we wanted to and we knew we would. So as we sat down at the table this year, it was like, all right, how can we revisit this and what's the best way to do it?
Oh, what a surprise. The relationship is perfect. No issues. Maybe some healthy friction we heard about, but apart from that, it's all sunshine and rainbows, apparently. What's interesting is Todd brought up the replica jerseys, and I'm glad he did. So let's see what follow-up we get on that.
Specifically to supporting the athletes, and you touched on this just a second ago, is the jersey sale program. It was something that obviously you said talked about the previous year, but I mean, like you said, the fact that you even pulled off anything last year was a miracle. Anything beyond that is a true miracle to get that done. But the conversation started. How did it evolve to what you guys landed on for this game season with the jersey sales and support of the athletes?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, last year, a couple of things on the jerseys. One thing that's cool about them is that they're made in a athletic uniform manufacturing warehouse. So they're not actually just like standard screen printed like the one you're wearing or I'm wearing right now. They come out of a facility that's producing NFL uniforms, NBA uniforms, and others, right? So while yes, it is a NoBull blank that it's on, it is the exact uniform that the athletes are wearing on the field.
Okay, so it is a legit replica.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It's a replica jersey. And I think, I want to make sure that doesn't get lost because it is cool and you do feel the difference there. But then as we talked about it last year, we wanted to do it. And then we were flying every material of every product to and from everywhere that we sent it to manufacture that stuff. So the only reason those jerseys were on the field at the games was because they were flying overhead to get there in time, right? At a time when supply chain was insane.
Oh man, yeah.
But that's just part of business, and that's just the reality of what we were working with. But this year it was okay, let's take a step back. How do we compare what we're doing from a replica jersey perspective to what else is happening in other sports? And are there things that other sports are doing that work for CrossFit, or is this something that's a little bit more unique, and it should be looked at uniquely? So in other sports, as there's a variety of different ways to go about it. There's a whole collective bargaining agreement that is between the NFLPA, the owners, the league, on and on, and jersey sales and merchandise sales are pooled and then distributed through a waterfall effect to the athletes whose jerseys are being sold, and then a percentage of it goes to the owners, and on and on. And it's fairly complex. And as we looked at that, and there was talks about, for CrossFit, can we do all 40 athletes this year on each side? So all 80 individual athletes from the end of June or the middle of June when semifinals are done to the middle of July, 4 weeks, can we pull that off? Knowing that for there to be a successful kind of economics to this, we had to increase the price. Otherwise, it was just a charitable contribution, which we do a lot of that in other parts of the business. But the best thing that we can do for CrossFit is continue to grow so that we can continue to invest more in CrossFit through prize money, through programs like this, through other things that matter to us.
So we get praise for how amazing a job they did last year. We then hear about how amazing these jerseys are because they're not just screen print shirts. They're being made in factories where they're producing other professional sports jerseys. Then we get a comparison with other sports with regards to how the money is shared and divided. And I really wish people would stop making these direct comparisons between CrossFit and other much more established sports, particularly when you're speaking about sponsorship or the distribution of money to athletes through teams, because it doesn't work like that in CrossFit, not yet anyway, and maybe it never will. But it was the end statement that really got me. The idea that we had to raise prices, we had to make more money on this because otherwise it becomes a charitable donation and we can't have that. Oh, we can be charitable in other ways that we won't mention now, but no, on this we need to be making a profit. We need to be making money. Why do they need to be making money? Because the best thing that NoBull can do for CrossFit is continue to grow. Now, it's not the first time I've heard that statement, and I'll show you in a minute another example of it, and I still don't get it. And I didn't get it before, and I definitely don't get it after his follow-up statement, because he says if NoBull grows, it can continue to invest in CrossFit. How will it invest? In prize money. So that's not really investing in CrossFit, but a select few CrossFit athletes. Or programs such as this. Programs like this jersey sale that you've already told us is not charitable, but is designed to make you a profit. Or other things that matter to us. Again, unspecified what these are and in what way they are supporting the community. And spoilers, there are no follow-up questions. But this line about CrossFit and the community needing NoBull to grow, it's not the first time I've heard it. In fact, it was mentioned on Morning Chalk Up.
But it's a great thing. I mean, there was some kickback. Some people are complaining about the price point and that, but obviously that didn't scare people away, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't. I mean, we as a CrossFit community, we need NoBull to succeed, and NoBull needs to make a profit for them to succeed. And with inflation and the rising cost of manufacturing and supply and everything like that, they had to make that adjustment. So, yeah, but at the end of the day, the athletes are getting money out of it. And they didn't get that last year. So
Right.
it's a good
And that's
thing.
what we really want to see.
So if someone can explain to me how NoBull growing and making more money is benefiting the greater CrossFit community, I would love to hear from you. But shifting back to the conversation with Todd representing NoBull, Chase asked how they feel about their relationship with CrossFit, particularly now that they are breaking into other sports.
So when you look at advancing into other sports, we'll talk the sport-specific side first. How do you see CrossFit in that basically like portfolio that you guys have going forward as far as like an importance for you guys?
It's the most important partnership that we have. It's the most important community, circle that we have, for lack of a better description. And it is because that's what gives us the license and the liberty to go authentically into other things, because CrossFitters like you and I, or, members of affiliates, they're also interested in other things too, and they're at football games seeing Mac Jones play. And it's really building, that centralized kind of approach that gives us the ability to go into those things authentically. So CrossFit is hugely important.
So CrossFit is the most important relationship they have. Now, doesn't that sound wonderful? But not because they are loyal to CrossFit. It's because people that do CrossFit and wear NoBull also like other sports and doing other things, and that way they can naturally take their product into these other sports. We are basically advertising their product for them for free. So they need us now, but what happens once they're already established in these other sports? Will CrossFit still be the most important relationship they have? Something to think about. So why don't we finish with a final statement about whether or not these athletes are professionals?
When you say professional athletes and you look at CrossFitters relative to other professional sports, how do you guys really see them stack up in that playing field as far as what we consider a professional athlete?
So, and maybe this is like my passion coming through. CrossFit athletes are professional athletes. CrossFit games athletes are professional athletes. And we've looked at it that way for years. And we've tried to celebrate them and put them on an even playing field with these other sports. These other sports are just much more mature in their distribution, in their like viewership, which creates all these new opportunities.
In the years they've been operating, I mean, we're talking like 100+ years for some of these sports.
And, in CrossFit, it's 15-ish years old, right? So there's a maturation period that we're literally witnessing right now. And I'm a fan of sports. My degree is in sports marketing and sports business. So that's how I see it. Like, that's how I'm wired to see that this is just one early chapter of a book that we want to be a part of. And we think as a brand, by investing in it, by investing in the athletes and celebrating it as an equal to Olympic athletes or NFL athletes or PGA Tour athletes, it will become crystal clear to those who are outside of our immediate orbit right now that they are. Because I can tell you right now, and this is from experience at CrossFit affiliates watching Tia or Brooke or Justin train, there's nobody on the planet that can do what these people do. It's obvious to you and I, and we want to make that obvious to the people who just aren't aware of it yet, and it takes time.
So Todd says that CrossFit athletes are professional athletes. Oh, but then he clarifies, CrossFit Games athletes are professional athletes. Well, I'm not sure that we would all agree with that statement. Yeah, we'd agree that some are definitely professional athletes in that they are making a living doing CrossFit. But I don't think you could tell me Elisa Fuliano, who works full-time and trains 1 hour a day in a kind of area put aside at her local box, is a professional athlete. If she was, then she wouldn't be working in that other job full-time, only having an hour to train in order to make a living. But it looks like Todd isn't thinking about athletes like her. Who does he reference? Tia, Justin, Brooke. So yes, the few athletes, the minority that are already making a living from CrossFit. But that shouldn't surprise us, because that's exactly what they did when they chose athletes to support with their jersey sales. So are NoBull building up the CrossFit community, or simply using it? Are they helping the athletes, or are they creating a bigger divide between those at the top of the games table and those at the bottom? Well, let me know what you think in the comments. So thank you so much for watching the video. If you like to hear people speaking that are not on the payroll of NoBull or any of the other big names, well, please subscribe to the channel, but also don't forget to go and follow those other independent media sources that I mentioned earlier, or any others that you can find, and show them your support too. Thank you once again, and I hope to see you in a future video.